episode 309, the IRONMAN 70.3 World Championships in Nice, France with Conor, Bollinger.
Welcome to the Pursuit of the Perfect Race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in there for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pursuit of the Perfect Race. Today I'm talking with Conor Bollinger about his recent race at IRONMAN 70.3 World Championship in Nice, France. This race took place on September 9th, 2019, where he had a time of 5 hours, 18 minutes, and 11 seconds. Welcome to the show, Conor. I look forward to talking to you about your race, man.
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate you for having me on here. I'm a huge fan of any triathlon content, so really happy what you're doing for the community in this podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to do it, man. So where did you qualify for Nice at, man?
I qualified at Nice at Ohio 70.3 in Delaware, Ohio last July. I would like to say it was like July 27th, 28th, so towards the end of July.
Okay. And so going into this race, this is probably your A race of the year, right?
Yeah, so I actually wasn't going to race any other triathlons until Worlds, but I happened to race nationals a couple weeks prior, and I actually went for another go at the Ohio 70.3 in 2019, and I ended up DNFing that race. So I went from having one race on my calendar to now racing 3 races in the span of, I would say, 6 to 7 weeks.
Wow. So how was your training going into all these races?
I recently relocated from Saratoga Springs, New York to Charlotte, North Carolina. A big reason was to focus on racing in the heat and being able to train outdoors year round. So my training didn't start until the end of May after Memorial Day. And the reason being is because I moved down to Charlotte early May. So I figured I'd give myself a 4-month, 16-week program to really get into shape for 70.3 Worlds. And I knew I was probably going to race one other time before that, but really wasn't sure when or what distance. But I knew that making my first race of the year, the World Championship, probably wasn't a smart idea.
Right. Now, you're using a plan you got online from Brett Sutton, I think it is, and you've been doing triathlon for a while now. Why did you pick this plan, and how did you tailor this to your life?
So I picked this plan primarily on flexibility and the fact that I really believe in what Brett Sutton's philosophy is, kind of muscle repetition. He kind of takes the weightlifting out of the training block, and he does like weight specific training exercises, for instance, like hill workouts. But reason being, my 9-to-5 job, if you will, is in sales, and I travel a lot. So I noticed with this volume, it's an advanced program, so it gets pretty high volume. I think it's like around 3 bricks a week. I noticed I can be flexible with the workouts just because it's probably tailored for someone a little bit above my pay grade, if you will.
Okay. Now, going into this race, did you have any mental workouts where you wanted to go in here and go, okay, I need to check this box, and this box before Nice or before Ohio, and then maybe even before the national championship?
I would say national championship was definitely a race. Well, actually, let's backtrack a little to Ohio 70.3 because that race came first. I signed up 2 weeks prior, and that was just to go in and to get my beak wet. Just to kind of see where I measured up for the season against all the other people in my age group. And the race really was going well until I got off the bike and I immediately went into those Frankenstein legs. And what goes back to what I think contributed to my demise in Nice. But without foreshadowing that or stealing the thunder from the focus on that race, I will say that, sorry, there's some sirens outside. I DNF'd about mile 1 on the run. And the reason is because I felt like the risk to reward was very marginal in that race if I did push through it. And because of the cramping issues, I just backed out immediately.
Okay. And then the Nationals, what happened there?
So Nationals I just went in, really didn't know what to expect, but I just wanted to like PR a few things. I went in and crushed the bike course with a 57-minute, 33rd overall out of males. But the 15th, my age group, so that goes to show the strength of cycling in the 25 to 29 at Nationals. But I ended up not running at top end speed. If you look at the race results, a lot of people were doing sub 6, like it was nothing. And I ended up doing like a 6:20 pace. So I think really wasn't impressed with my top end speed on my run there, but I felt like I could have ran 6:20 all day. So going into Worlds, I was pretty confident in my run. But to answer your question, to check some boxes, I did have like one specific run workout I'd like to do on Friday on tired legs. And that was like mile repeats. I did that twice before the race with one of the local college guys here from Queen's University. And that was just a negative split the miles, do 6 miles out on the track with like a minute down in between each, starting at like 6:30 going down to like 5:30.
Okay. So if you're doing a track workout on Friday, are you doing long stuff on the weekend still?
Yeah. So my long bike's going to be on Saturday, and then it's really going to go up to about a 4.5 hour bike, but it's not going to get really specific until week 13, 14. And those bikes are going to come down to like 3.5 hours. So you're going to have 4.5 hours around like week 12, and a little week in that training block right there. Cause it's broken down into 4-week cycles within the 16-week program.
Okay. So you're building 4 weeks in a row every time.
Essentially. And then the last training block, you'll have 1 week of hard volume, then it will kind of just come down, and then the last week's taper week. Okay. Well, last week will be race week and then taper week. Yeah.
All right. So now when you're not training or racing, you're in sales. What else are you doing?
That's essentially it. I mean, I'm just trying to like manage my Instagram and like just pumping out triathlon content. I think I'm not trying to be like a triathlon influencer. I'm just trying to like showcase of what my personality is and my interests are. And I feel like I found a nice little market there. I basically just, I try to bring a community to my Instagram and treat it as like my own channel, if you will, my YouTube channel. Okay.
So how hard is it for you to balance life, work, and training then?
Well, I think when you're training within a block, it's not only are you putting limitations on like free time, but like you also want to kind of police yourself to a certain extent, in my opinion, especially being a single guy in his late 20s. There's a lot of distractions, a lot of chances to go watch football on the weekends, go to the games, like eat wings like twice a week, watching football. The only reason I'm saying football is because football season just started, and I've already gotten like 6 invitations to go out to bars and drink beer and eat wings. I just realized you got to police yourself. Also, you got to respect the rest, and you got to prime yourself for workouts the next day. And I think, especially being in sales, I'm not home a lot. So I value, like, I'm a homebody when I'm here. And when I know I have to get up and do a 4-hour or 3.5 hour brick on Saturday, that I'm going to be in bed. I'll probably cook my own dinner, wake up, have like breakfast prepared just to make it seamless. So if there is something social that comes out on like Saturday or Sunday, my workout's already done and dusted, if you will, and I'm ready to have fun, but keep it within certain parameters.
All right. Now with your training building up to 16 hours a week, you're still working 40 hours a week and all that fun stuff. There's got to be some days among all this where you're just like, I don't want to train today. I'm done. Like, you look at the bike and you're like, I don't want to get on that anymore. I'm good. Like, how do you get past those days?
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I feel like I've been in the sport for so long where I'll get to that workout and I don't know, all I got to do is do like one set and I'm like, all right, we're back in this. Like, I don't know. I get what you're saying, but to take a day off, I really got to be like in a space where my body really needs it. Like, I'm aching, but I love like getting to the pool, not wanting to swim, and then doing like the first 500 yards and just waking up. And then even like 1,500 yards sometimes it takes to get a warm up in. But I love that feeling because you never regret a workout.
Wow. So I know you traveled 16 days for Nice. So to kind of get into this, when did you start traveling from the race or from where you're at all the way to Nice, and why were you there so long?
Yeah, so I get to work from home the last week of the month. And I went to Nice because I was working from home from Charlotte anyways, and I figured I could easily work from 3 p.m, to 10, 11 at night every day and just wake up, get my workouts in early, and then make sure I have dinner cooked. So all I got to do is go to bed when like the emails stop coming in. And that's like obviously a big perk of being in sales. So I know I wasn't going to do well with the jet lag, and rightfully so. It took me about 3 days to acclimate to like, the eating, the sleeping schedule, all of that, and to see the inflammation come down to my legs. So that's why I went 16 days early. It was actually pretty funny because I went into my Airbnb and I knew I was in trouble because the guy, he advertised the apartment with air conditioning. And then when I asked him what the air conditioning was, he slapped like a 6-inch by 8-inch fan. And he said air conditioning. And I was like, oh no. And that week in Nice, France, there was a heat wave. So I was just in my underwear all day, every day. The first 8 days I was in Nice in this apartment, just banging away on my laptop.
Why would they advertise it as a fan being air conditioning? That sucks.
It was like a lack of communication. But what's even better was, I don't know if you ever seen the movie The Blues Brothers. You ever seen that movie?
But it's been a while.
Okay, the apartment that's like right by the train tracks?
Yes.
So that's basically where the apartment was. It was about 100 feet from the Nice train track, and it wasn't like a light rail. It was the train that would go up and down the Riviera. So
what's
like
the name of that movie? Wanted, like on the movie Wanted.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So at all hours of the night, there were just trains going by. The windows were open. It was hysterical.
Did you bring a sleep mask and earplugs?
Yeah, so I'm a big eye mask guy, so I took advantage of that, and I didn't have earplugs, unfortunately.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So, as far as getting over there and all the logistics going into this, you said this is very easily navigatable, not really that logistically challenging, but you have to get your bike there, you have to get all your nutrition there, you have to travel from the airport to your lodging. How is all this?
So I think like traveling for races, I travel a lot, and people just need to set the right expectations. It's never going to be seamless. Like if it comes down to bike fees, if it comes down to finding a taxi and getting denied because you have a bike, like you just got to expect the worst when it comes to traveling abroad, especially, and try to just prepare as much when it comes to like the nutrition aspect. Like I had a giant Ziploc bag with everything in it, and I said, okay, I can't touch this for race day specifically. And then like, this is the surplus that I could use for training, and then stop at a bike shop to get anything else during training weeks. If you need nutrition, don't take the race nutrition you're used to. So that was kind of off limits. But I brought my own bike in like the Thule transition bag. So you have to take like the handlebars apart. Obviously, like both wheels go underneath. It's not like the Skion, or I forgot that one.
Sycon,
yeah. Wow, that was a big fail on my part.
But it's okay. I think
Sycon,
I'm even saying it wrong, honestly.
Yeah, right. It's like Hoka Una.
I thought it was 1-1 for the longest time. And then we watched Kona whenever they first started advertising at Kona. I was like, One. What? Where's One? I don't see it. What? Where's the A in there? Like, who does this?
But with traveling for races, getting an Uber sometimes is a common roadblock where like you need to get a van. So you'll be denied sometimes because with your bike box, like some of these nice like Mercedes and in certain countries, they don't want to bang the bike box around. And I heard a lot of stories about people getting denied.
Really?
Yeah.
Man. So, you get to Nice, you get all your stuff there. What was your first impression of the city and the venue and seeing everything there, seeing this World Championship race? Because this is your first time going to Worlds.
Yeah, so I've done like age group worlds twice, but like one of the reasons why, I wanted to come race this obviously is it's Ironman event. So, there's going to be money behind it. And I did Ironman 70.3 Dubai. So honestly, compared to that, like this was a little bit better. So I knew like it was going to be better than Dubai, but Dubai was probably the nicest, race, like put on race that I've ever been to just by the sheer like money that's there. But, I think my first impression about Nice was very laid back, and it was my first impression in France in general. And I think it was like a South Beach, Miami meets like, like a Paris of like they had a love child.
Gosh,
I don't know. Or like if Miami met Rome or something like that, just by the architecture, because it was very Italian influence, especially in the countryside, just because of how close you were to Italy. That's actually one of the things you notice in particular is that there's a big Italian influence as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So going into this race, how was the check-in, the village, and all that? Did that go pretty smooth?
Yeah, pretty smooth, I would say. You immediately walked into like the merch tent, obviously, and then you just got slapped in the face with like all this gear, and it was pretty awesome. I mean, a lot of cool new stuff that I've never seen in other of the apparel shops. But like what I did notice was they had these towels for sale, and even my girlfriend, who I should mention actually raced on the female day as well. So we both were out there to race, and we saw these towels that had like the marquee sign on it. And then you actually got a free towel with the book bag that you got with registration. So I thought that was like a bait and switch. They gave us like, you could buy this towel, but you're going to get one for free in like 20 feet.
Wow.
I don't know. But, there were a lot of vendors out there. So a good showing, like 3 wetsuit companies. I mean, like 5 to 6 bike companies. You name it, but the overall, like it was pretty seamless. You got a free book bag, towel, and no like bars or anything in it. Just like a stack full of coupons. You know what I mean?
But everything was in French, not English.
Yeah, I believe so. And to be honest, the book bag itself, going back to 70.3 Dubai, like wasn't as good of a book bag that we got there.
What do you mean?
So I always keep referencing 70.3 Dubai as like the nicest put on race I've ever been to, because just how much money was invested, like from the gear to the food to like the medals, everything. And the book bags that we got at 70.3 Dubai were like twice as nice as the ones that we got at Worlds.
Wow.
Yeah. But they were still really nice book bags. So I'm kind of spoiled in that department.
So are you going back to Dubai then?
I think I like should. I don't want to do 2 races or the same race twice, even though I did Ohio, but that race was just so awesome.
Well, you gotta go back then.
Yeah.
So the goal here was to PR and all that fun stuff. What was your strategy for the race itself, though? Like, did you have a certain way you wanted to execute the bike and the run and going back to the swim as well?
Yeah, the goal was just to PR like either the swim or the run. And going into it, the goal was hammer the swim, get to the top of the climb as fast as possible, hold on for the downhill, and try to PR the run. But if it comes down to it, like hold on to what you can if you blow up. So that seemed to be a lot of people's strategy in at least my circle of friends too.
Okay. Now, the day before, this is a split transition race here. So the day before, usually you go and check your bike in. But here, the women are racing at the time you're checking your bike in. So How did this go logistically? I mean, did this run pretty smooth?
Okay, so for me, it was a little bit of a particular situation. As I said, my girlfriend was racing, so I got up at 5 a.m. to go to transition with her and watch her start. So when she did that, I went back to the apartment and got on my trainer for 40 minutes and watched the pro females on TV. So then I was like, well,
in air conditioning.
What am I going to now she's on the bike for like 3.5 hours. So what am I going to do? So I just basically stayed there. And then when she was getting off the bike, I went down, saw her do that. And then I did a practice run and swim. And then by the time she was done and like after like she got food, it was like 2 p.m. and we could rack our bikes from 2 to 6. So it was like, wow, do I go back to my apartment, like scramble everything, then go like check everything in, or do I wait to the 11th hour at like 5 or 5:30 and go to transition? So I ended up like going back, chilling out, like making sure like all the dots were dotted, all the T's were crossed. I mean, all the I's were dotted rather. So I basically didn't go to transition till like 5 o'clock, which in my opinion was probably the smart move, because when we were walking by transition at like 2:15, the line was like around the block and it was just a huge cluster F.
Really?
Yeah.
So you get all of her stuff and you put your bags up at T2 or T1 and T2. You're staying pretty close to the venue, about a quarter mile or so. And as far as your nutrition the day before the race, you actually fast. What's this like, and how did you come up with this?
Going back to like what's worked for me, I think with nutrition, it's very bio-individual. Trial and error. What's one person's like food is another person's poison. And I think I do well with the carb load 48 hours before, and then go into a fast the day before for about 12 to 16 hours, and then replenish your body with nutrient-dense foods. So that's kind of where I feel like my stomach's agreed with me out on the course, and where I've been able to produce in terms of a diet strategy.
Okay, so what are you actually eating the day before the race then? So you wait till noon to eat, is that right?
Yeah, so I wait till like noon to eat, and then it's like smoothie with obviously like spinach, protein, almond milk, like no dairy. The protein I use has very minimal sugar. And then just load it with berries, and then some superfoods like maca, some mushroom extract, but as well as some oatmeal with like goji berries, some peanut butter. So like nutrient dense foods that I'm going to digest well. And then for dinner is going to be a little bit more of the carb and protein. It's going to be a little bit heavier, but I want to eat a lot of olive oil, a lot of fats, because I want to at least get it out. But I also want that fat as well. So it was tortellini, but I'm trying to remember what kind of tortellini.
Chicken, maybe?
No, it was truffle tortellini.
What the heck is that?
Truffles, they're delicious. I don't know even how to describe them. I think they're like a type of mushroom, but I don't know. They're just really good. But there was mushrooms in there, sun-dried tomatoes, some vegetables, a lot of olive oil, like I said, and then like some fried up prosciutto, so like ham, just to give it some more protein. And then I ate that around 5 or 6.
Okay.
And then that's basically the last thing I'm eating. And maybe I had a banana before dinner. I can't remember.
Okay. Now, as far as going to bed the night before, did you have any issues sleeping, being that you're like right there by the train tracks?
So thankfully I moved Airbnbs after the first week, and then I went into a lot nicer place with, it was like on the top floor. So you had a good breeze, but to be honest, like I was in bed by 8:30, like all week, and up by like 6:30 to like work out or just to get up and move. And I did notice though, and everybody that I stayed with, my mother and then my girlfriend, everyone woke up with like really dry throats. And honestly, full disclosure, I had the weirdest boogers when I was there. It was like, I had a lot of boogers, but it wasn't like runny. So it was just very dry because the salt, but, yeah, definitely was fighting like a rasp in the throat the whole time. And we always were thirsty. That's another thing we noticed. We were always thirsty, no matter how much I feel like I was just catching up on hydration. And then I would go to bed and wake up and then be dehydrated again just because of what happens during the night.
Wow. So you get up on race morning. How much sleep do you think you got? It was about 7 hours, and then you get ready for race day. What's your race day morning ritual like?
Definitely cracking jokes. I hate like the serious approach before races. I feel like I just get inside my own head too much. So I'm usually playing like some kind of dance music or like some kind of, I don't know, retro, like R&B or something. And I'm just like joking around, getting the legs moving, eat immediately. That's definitely for sure. And then go make a coffee, sit on the toilet. And then just, if nothing comes, but at least just sit on the toilet for a little bit. And then do the race tattoos, head down to the site. Or I headed down around like 5:30, and I got up around 4:45.
Okay. Now, something that's a little bit unique here is this is obviously a tough course, but just on the bike ride, you have a 13-mile ascent, 13-mile descent, but the swim here, it's a beach start. It's rolling within each age group, but it's not really a beach. Beach would be kind of not what people are thinking with beach. It's like golf ball sized rocks, or a little bit bigger than golf balls. You can't really just walk on it. How did you deal with this?
Yeah, well, thankfully I was there for a while to realize it and to experience it, because it is painful, especially when you're just there a day out of the beach. You need like sandals on or something. But thankfully they had carpet on. And, to address the swim specifically, I brought a wetsuit but didn't bring a skin suit. And reason being is I have 2 Team USA suits, and they're made by the same material, polyamide and elastane. So I would always just wear one of those if it was not wetsuit legal. And I didn't pack one of those, I realized. So I was doing the swim in my tri-kit, which, isn't ideal, just to put it lightly. And I was getting inside my head before the race because I found out it wasn't wetsuit legal.
Okay. Now, to back up a little bit here, you have a little bit of a unique nutrition plan. Walk me through what your race nutrition plan is.
Yeah, so 30 minutes before the race, waking up in the morning, it's oatmeal, almond butter, and 2 bananas. But I'll save half of those, half a banana. And then 30 minutes before the race, I'll take 25 grams of pure ketone esters by HVMN. And if nobody knows what those are, go look it up. It's basically comes in what looks like a mini cologne bottle, and it puts you in ketosis within 30 minutes. So I'll eat that with the half banana, some carbs, because that's what they recommend. And then I'll go into the race with that in my stomach.
But that's what works for you. And so that's before the race, and during the race, what do you do?
Right out of the swim, I knew, because of how salty the water was, and how hot it was how hot the sun was in Nice. If you were not in the sun, it was actually kind of chilly, especially that early in the morning. But if the sun was out, which it was when you were out there in the water, you were just beating in it and just baking. So I knew I was going to be dehydrated coming out. I immediately hit a 100 calorie gel by Maurten Nutrition. There's some carbs in it, so some sugars, but it's around 100 calories. And then when I got on the bike, I had about 320 calories of Maurten powder in one water bottle with some Nuun electrolytes. And then in the second water bottle, I just had plain water. And then in my storage compartment, I had another 200 calories of Maurten Nutrition, and then another 25 gram bottle of HVMN, pure ketone esters.
Okay. So you get done in transition, you head over to the swim start. What's the atmosphere like for you in that area? Like being here, being at the World Championship 70.3, your big race of the year. What's this like for you?
Well, I'd be lying if I was like starstruck and was overwhelmed with emotion, because I was there for so long where I already had those moments in training where I was visualizing myself. So just because I really didn't want to get emotional before the race, I'm there to have fun. I've always done well on a laid back approach. So going in, I went to the practice swim about half hour before my wave went off, and I did about 400 yards. Then when I got into the corral, I noticed an age group before us had the same swim caps, but I went to the swim start about 15 minutes before my age group was set to go off, and it was already jam-packed, like at least 30, 40 deep. There was already probably like 80% of our age group in there. So self-seating really wasn't a thing for 25 to 29 males. It was just basically a cattle corral.
Wow.
So I started I was one of the last ones to go off in my age group, just because I only got there 15 minutes before the start.
Wow. So where was your age group at in relationship to the front of the pack?
We were the third to last one. And yeah, like I said, I just didn't walk 200 yards down the carpet in the corral sooner, just because I didn't think it would be like that.
Man.
Yeah.
So you get in the water. How does the swim go?
Swim couldn't have went better. My goal was PR something, and I ended up PRing the swim, which is surprising because I train at what I race, which is a little bit unorthodox, I guess, because I really think I should start training a little bit faster. But it was about a 125 pace. It's very salty. The rocks drop off like 10 yards into the water, not even. I would say like closer to 5 yards. So it's basically you just jump from the edge and you don't really step on any rocks because you're running in on carpet. But the sun was rising from I'm a right side breather, was rising from the left when you entered the water. So it wasn't in my eyes until I had the last leg of the box, because it's about a 3-walled rectangle, the swim course.
Now, did you experience a lot of hitting, kicking? Did you get dunked, anything like that?
No, I was very satisfied with the rolling start. There were a few times when I really didn't get it. This guy that was next to me for like 500 yards, he just was literally right next to me, and I don't know why he just wouldn't jump on my feet. He wasted a lot of energy, but no, nothing like that. People that were blowing by me did it at a distance, and there was only like a couple guys. I noticed like with the swim, you could really get a sense of how well you're doing by just the sheer amount of people that are passing you, in my opinion. But I didn't want to get out of the water, and I think part of that was knowing, what was ahead of me in the climb. So I really enjoyed the swim, especially the fact that there was no chop, and it was just kind of this consistent little roll of water. And as soon as you caught that rhythm, you just felt like you were in one with your stroke.
Wow. So you get done with the swim. How do you feel about the swim? Do you have like an idea of how your time was right then, or did you know?
No. So, because it was so clear, I love looking at my watch at certain parts of the swim just to gauge. I didn't look at my watch until about 500 yards left, and it said, roughly, I think about 500 yards left, and it said like a little over 25 minutes. So then I was like, oh crap, I got to get there before 30. Like, let's set that goal. And I got out of the water at like 30:28. So, that's like the only thing that I had to go by.
Okay. So you get done with the swim, you're in T1 for roughly almost 3 minutes. How does T1 go for you, and what is this like going on the bike for you?
So I relatively have quick transitions, but lately I've been putting socks on the bike, and that takes a little bit more time because you got to take your timing chip off.
Why are you wearing socks on the bike?
I have a lot of feet issues lately, and I have baby soft feet, man, to be completely honest. So I get so many blisters, and I'm just trying to prolong the blistering as much as possible. Okay.
So you get out on the bike ride. How does the first 2 miles of the bike ride go? What do you see here, and what's this like?
Well, the bike was pretty flat until you got to the first climb at like mile 5. So my goal was to take it easy up to the climb, but that really didn't go as planned because, people are just moving and passing you, and you just feel like you're going to get left behind. So as soon as I saw like the second guy pass me, I was like, all right, I got to catch up to this group just to get my, mind into the race. I can't really lollygag up to the climb. So when I got to the climb, I was actually kind of winded at first, and I knew I was in a little trouble there, but I do well on hills. So I was actually really looking forward to getting the thing started. And it was just an eerie feeling though, because that first little climb, everyone knew what was ahead and no one was talking. And it was just this eerie feeling of what's to come.
Wow. So now, what gearing did you decide to use for this bike ride?
2511. I just kept it same.
2511.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you didn't really have any granny gears in the back.
No.
Man. So you get up to the bottom of this 13-mile ascent. How are you feeling at this point?
That I definitely cooked the legs a little. Part of that reason was just what I was on, and I like to do my cadence around 70 up those hills.
Really?
Yeah.
Why not a little bit higher to make it easier?
I was judging from just counting, and it was going anywhere from like 70 to 80, to be completely honest.
So you were counting up to 78 per minute?
Or RPMs.
Yeah. So you were actually counting all the way to 78.
No. You multiply by 3.
Multiply by 3?
Yeah, 20 seconds. Oh, sorry. You count for 20 seconds and then multiply by 3.
Okay. I haven't heard of that. So just.
I mean, you could do it by 10 and multiply by 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean.
Well, so I don't have a computer on my bike.
Why not?
I'm kind of keeping it old school. Honestly, just didn't want to throw down $500 for another power meter. I got
another power meter?
Yeah, I have a power meter on my road bike that used to be on my Shiv, but I switched bikes and I really didn't want to get another power meter in 2 years. Can't just justify, you can't
just swap
now.
it over?
Well, no, because my new crank is a hard arrow shell and it's a one piece and I have a dual side cork. So getting a new crank caused me to render the cork useless. So I need to get the vector pedals or some kind of pedal power meter instead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting facts. All right. So with the bike ride, I mean, there's some potholes here. There's some rumble strips. There's some speed bumps. How does a bike ride go for you for the first half? And what's it like going up this long ass ascent?
Honestly, like the climb wasn't that bad. I did it the week prior and it went by as bad as I thought it was going to be in terms of like how much it hurt, but it went by pretty quick because there's a sign there every 2 kilometers of 8 kilometers away, 6 kilometers away, 4 kilometers away, 2 kilometers away. And so you get to the top and those were, ticking by and you're passing people, you're looking at gears, there's people blowing by you. You're like kind of awestruck and you're passing other people. So you're kind of giving yourself this confidence booster. And then there's this scenery. So you're like, well, shit, like I can't be in a bad mood here. And next thing you know, you get to the top and there's an aid station. So you know that too. So to backtrack, there's like a little bit of a climb and then it kind of goes into these rollers and then you hit the Col de Vence, which is the 10K climb. So the first climb is a little taste and there's a couple climbs that are like 11%, but like only a couple hundred yards. So that gets your heart going a little and you just know the Col de Vence is coming up. But the rollers was probably my favorite part because that was opening the legs after the first climb. And I went with a couple other guys down in Arrow and we were just on a train, just passing people. I think in the swim I came out in 1/30th and then 30 people passed me on the bike and then 60 on the run, but we'll get to that. But yeah, so most of the people passed me on the descent. You get to the top of the climb, you hit the aid station and this one guy just looked at me and said, "Full fucking send, man," because I had my full send kit on and just bombed the hill. And we just started going 40 miles immediately after going, 6 miles an hour up the hill.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. So you get to the descend part and you have to be careful going down this because there's some parts where there might be a guide rail, but on the other side of the guide rail is a cliff. So you can't just fall over the cliff and go too fast where you lose control. So you have to be careful, honestly. So what was this like for you? Was this a little scary?
Well, the guardrail, there was no such thing. Some of these guardrails are made out of wood, to be honest. And they were so low where you were going over no matter what. These things weren't stopping anything. And
they were there for just looks.
Yeah, to be honest, they were just there to check a box probably. But I was lucky enough to know this kid, Matt Stratman out of Canada, who I raced with at Ohio. He won my age group, got his slot. I came second, got a slot. He passed me right as we got to the top of the hill. And I know he's a strong cyclist. So I was like, I'm actually going to see what this guy does and kind of just feed off from him. So I let him go about 40 yards and 30 to 40 yards in front of me. So if he was braking braking sharp or made a wide turn, I knew that I should probably follow that path. So that actually kind of helped me a lot on the descent until he just went way too far ahead of me. But so I had that going for me for at least the first third of the descent.
Wow. So as far as the bike ride goes, what are some tips that you would give somebody that hasn't done this type of race before?
So you always want to brake with both brakes. And first make sure your brakes are working, but always brake with both brakes. Don't just lay on one brake. obviously inside foot up. But you couldn't prepare for this course. We don't have any descents like this or this long. It was insane. Like, there was nothing to compare it to. But I would also say a lot of communication, and then take your turns wide. And I noticed one thing about the climbs actually on the switchbacks. If you cut on the inside of one of the turns, they were given penalties for that.
Really?
And on the descent, they weren't stopping anybody, but they kept saying, stay in the right, stay in the right. But people were passing in the left lane, but they kept yelling at us to stay in the right.
Wow. So you get, say about mile 40 or so, mile 45 of the bike ride. How is your nutrition plan going? Are you hitting this 520 calories an hour that you're wanting to hit?
No, I was definitely not doing 520 calories an hour at all. I brought, I think it was 320 plus a 2. Yeah, I brought 520 for all 2 hours and 49 minutes.
Okay, so you're more like 200 and some change.
Yeah.
An hour.
So it was pretty bad. And part of that reason is because that's all I've done leading up to this. That's kind of what has worked for me for 70.3s, but foreshadowing my demise later in the race. So I ended up drinking all 320 that were in the water bottle by the time I was about 5 miles down the descent. So about 30 miles in. And then when I got down, because you were going so fast, it wasn't safe to take on nutrition. I was throwing water bottle. Yeah, it was, unless you wanted to sacrifice some time. But yeah, it was pretty intense. Even so, like around the slow points, you wanted both hands on the bars.
Now, do you have disc brakes or do you have rim brakes?
Rim brakes.
Now, do you feel like that was adequate for this course, or do you feel like you would have had a little bit more confidence braking if you would have had disc brakes?
Well, I've never used disc brakes, so it's hard for me to comment on that. But I mean, I hear you're better off with disc brakes. So
okay,
yeah.
So as you're wrapping up the bike ride, how are the last few miles going?
So the last 5 miles are on a flat course again, and I enjoyed that because you got to open up the legs a little bit after putting a lot of pressure on the descent. So I immediately took another 100 calories in with another 25 grams of HVMN ketone esters. And then about a mile to go, my quads started tightening and getting like a cramp flex. And I thought, well, this isn't good. So I started to dismount, ran to like the first bike rack, and my legs started locking up again, but this time it was my quads. And one of the guys in the transition came up to me with a bottle of water, and then I laid on a park bench. I put my bike into like the garden that was like off to the side of the sidewalk where people were running, and I laid on this bench that was there for about what seemed to be like 3 to 5 minutes. Probably was only like 90 seconds.
This is before you get to T2.
This is 100 yards into T2.
Okay, 100 yards into T2. Okay.
Yeah. So I laid on this bench and I drank some water, and then the cramping went away. And so I ran to my bike, and then I had to piss, and I was just going to piss myself on the run. But because of the cramping was so bad, I figured, well, let me set my run up as comfortable as possible. So I went and I pissed in transition. So I basically went against everything I believe in: going to the bathroom in transition, stopping, basically not
laying down, taking a nap.
Yeah. Yeah. The cramping was so bad, man. It was so bad.
And
if you look at everyone,
what made the cramp so bad?
So to be honest, I think it's my bike fit, not the bike specifically, but I'm at the very top threshold of like what's allowed for a bike fit. So I think I'm just working my legs way too much.
Okay. So you get on the run, the first few miles, how do they go?
They went swimmingly, to be honest.
The run went swimmingly.
The first.
What do you mean? I mean, I've heard of people talking about the swim being swimmingly, but not the run.
The first 2 miles of the run are like some of my favorite, but my goal was 6:30 pace, and I knew I should have probably like come out of the run at like 6:15, 6:30. So I came out of the run around like 7-minute pace, 7:30, 7:15. So I came out of the run at like 7-minute pace. And then when I got to about mile 1, I was opening it up to like 6:40 pace. And I ran the first 3 miles at like 6:40 sub 7 pace. And then right when I got to like mile 4, mile 5, the cramping came again, and it came back all over in both legs, quads, hamstrings, to the point where I needed to stop and like lean up against one of the guardrails to like help balance myself because I was going to fall.
So around this point, you probably had a little bit of negative self-talk.
Oh yeah, a lot of negative self-talk. Like, can't believe I came all the way out here and this is happening again. So you go to like emergency mode and you just start ingesting salt and some more calories and get to water. So that's basically what I did for like, while like shuffling my feet for the next like 10 minutes.
At some point, you probably felt a little embarrassed because here you are at the world's 70.3, your big race of the season, and now you're just like, man, why am I even out here? I don't belong out here. Did that cross your mind?
To be honest, yeah, you basically start to think, well, am I good enough to be here? But, my whole thing is, I'm like blessed that I'm able to complete something like this. Like, I know a lot of people who aren't even physically like, don't even have the motor skills or the mental capacity to do something like this. So, those kind of come and go really quick, but it's almost like you just start thinking about what could have went wrong, not like, okay, let's get through this. And once you realize like, well, there's nothing you could do, so let's get through this. That's when it kind of gets into like a better mood. But, to be embarrassed, yeah, I was a little embarrassed just by how I didn't respect the course enough. I was embarrassed by.
Man. So how did you overcome these negative emotions during this race? Because that's something that a lot of people can really learn from, is how you deal with this negative self-talk on the fly.
I think one of the things is like a physical expression. So kind of forcing yourself to smile. And I think that goes a long way. I noticed that always puts me in a good mood. But putting your hand out, getting a high five from someone who is just spectating. And then there's other athletes who are running by you, you're running by, but always saying like, look how far I've come, like I'm here. Just, keep saying that to yourself. But I think most important, in my opinion, is having that smile on, forcing yourself to smile.
Wow. So as far as the run goes, what are some tips that you would give someone that hasn't done this type of race before?
Respect the course and respect the distance. So many athletes go long for their first triathlon, and I just think it's risky, but know the course you're racing. And I think it always could be worse. Like, I knew so many people who had like a mechanical or something just went rogue on their race, and mine was just, I had a bad run. I bonked. My one buddy's DI2 died and did the entire course in one gear. So when you think my race was bad just because I bonked on the run, like, it just always could be worse. But to be honest, I did belong there, and I didn't doubt it for a second. But it just, it's hard to have the perfect race.
Right.
Out of like the 35 triathlons I've done, I think I'm happy with 2 of those races. And you talk to any triathlete how the race went, the first thing they say is how well it didn't go.
Right. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So with this race on the run, miles 5 through 10 of the run course, what are you seeing? What's the atmosphere like? What do you smell? What's it like to be on the race course here?
The run course was beautiful because it was right on the main strip down by the water, and it was pretty cloudy. So the sun would come and go. You would get some shade, some not so much shade, but the crowd was electric, and it probably was. It was really concentrated on like the first like 2 miles down by the finish line. You just hear the DJ. They had really good dance music. It wasn't like our pop 40 hits we get here in the States, like Ryan Seacrest Z100, but it was like some good house music that got you pretty pumped up when you were there. And like the the main, the first mile coming out of T2, it like went underground and into like this underground roadway, and that was just a cool experience. And it was really cool down there, like temperature wise, so that cooled you off a little. But a lot of electricity, especially you got to shout out the Brazilians, anybody from South America just travels well. I feel like, especially Team Mexico. Who else? The Spanish. You know, they're very lively at those races, so that's always fun to see.
Wow. So, what about your GI system? Did you have any GI distress? Did you have any bloating? Did you have to throw up? Did you have to go to the bathroom a lot? Anything like that?
No, I just knew that I had to pee a lot on the bike, and that hit me about halfway through just because you weren't overheating that much. I mean, it was pretty hot getting up to the climb and you were sweating a little, but the descent, I mean, you're going so fast and you're in those mountains. It was pretty chilly. So I wasn't sweating as much as I thought I was. So I think that caused me to have to go to the bathroom, but nothing in the GI tract. I know a lot of people said the dryness in the air kind of hurt their throat a little, but thankfully that didn't occur with me.
Okay. Now, the last few miles here, what's this like? And then describe the finish line.
So that's funny. The last like 3 miles, you're headed back. And my friend Juan, who owns Interforce Sports, he does custom off race apparel or training apparel. But he was there and he jogged with me the last 3 miles, just giving me a pep talk, you know, telling me how well I was doing, telling me there's only this amount left, you know, you could do it. Pick up your pace. Let's go. Aid station's coming up. Like hit the water, hit the ice. Let's go. We'll get back on track. You didn't come here to walk. Just constant motivation for the last 3 miles. And he knew my race went to shit. He knew I came out there not to, you know, run 8:30 pace. So he knew how pissed off I was. And I really didn't talk to him. I just had my head down and, you know, just let's get this over with. And let's chalk it up and learn from it.
Wow. So now going into the finish shoot, what was this like?
It was, well, the red carpet on any race is the best part, in my opinion, or blue carpet if you're doing the age group worlds. But I was surprised at how many people were still there just because of how late in the race it was. And I knew a lot of people, that were at the finish line if they were already finished the race or friends. So I knew that was going to get me jazzed up, but I slapped as many people high five as I could and just told the crowd, you know, let's go. Like I tried to pump them up as much as possible because it was pretty late in the day and I was shocked by how many people were still there.
Okay. Now, you get done with the race. What do you do next, man?
That's the thing, man. I've been burning the candle at both ends for like 4 years. So that's part of the reason why I had a short little season this year and only did 3 races. I usually do 12 or 15. I think part of the reason is my body needs to repair. I got to get back to the basics, get back to yoga, figure out what's going on with my diet. Most importantly, get back in the gym. I haven't really been on a weightlifting program in like 4 years. And part of the reason is I'm 28 years old. Done sprint, Olympic, and 70.3 worlds. I think, you know, to try to get to Kona before I'm 30 would be a great accomplishment and a goal that's, you know, a little bit far to reach. So I got about a year to figure that out.
Okay. So you get done with the race, you get recovered, you meet up with your girlfriend. How's the next few hours go?
Not that bad. I mean, part of the reason I take the Ketone Esters is the recovery factor. You bounce back pretty quick. So it's just, let's meet up with some friends right after the race, like at the food thing. You know, some of the guys I raced with, you see, so you get into a lot of conversations there. But basically just headed back to the Airbnb, popped open some Bollinger champagne, celebrated, ate a full pizza.
You ate a full pizza?
Ate a full pizza, drank probably a half a bottle of champagne and then some rosé, showered, was in a great mood, went back, got all my stuff out of T1, T2, then I headed out and celebrated with some beers.
Nice.
Yeah.
So after all this happened, how do you feel about your race now?
I mean, looking back at it, I was having a solid race until I got to the run. I mean, as solid of a race as I was going to have. I wish I knew what was going on with my run, man. This is the second 70.3 in a row that this happened. And I think it's a lot of factors. Yoga, my bike fit. Those are the first two things that come to mind. And it goes back to the drawing board, but sharpening the axe. That's why we love this crazy sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So your future self, what do you want to tell your future self that you want him to actually pay attention to and listen to that you actually learned from this race?
Bike a lot harder when you're training than you are racing.
Awesome. So, we've talked a lot about your race. Do you have anything else you want to add, man?
No, man. I think A2 Bikes, they're my main bike sponsor. I'd like to thank them. Full Send Triathlon, great group of guys there. And I'd like to thank you again for having me on, listen to my race, and really appreciate it. Love what you're doing.
Yeah, man. So I know you can be found on Instagram at Bolly_triathlon. Is that right?
Yep.
And that's BOLLY. You also have a website, right?
Yeah, Bali Triathlon. It might be down right now. Or no, it's bollytry.com, www.bollytry.com.
Okay, cool. So, I only have one more question to ask, and that's, what's your definition of a perfect race?
Your fastest race.
So, no matter what, your fastest race is your perfect race?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to redo that?
Oh, no, I'm good. Like, that's your definition, not mine. So, we're good. Well, Conor, this has been fun, man. I enjoyed this, and I look forward to following you in the future, man.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it, Terry.
You're welcome. You have a good day, okay?
Take care.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.